our first time at Housing Technology, and it's a big statement in terms of our commitment to the sector and what it is that we're looking to do in terms of providing services and working with you going forwards. So I suppose a lot of the providers to the sector who've been here a number of years are sort of looking at how they kind of mix up these sessions to make it interesting, you know, to give a little bit of a different spin. But I suppose because it's a news story for most of you, and you probably aren't aware of what Hitachi are doing in the sector and what our offer is, I'm really just going back to basics. So it might not be that interesting or with too much pizzazz, but hopefully it will be an exciting story that at least starts to resonate with you, because I feel we're bringing an offer to the sector that isn't available from anyone else, and that is something that's different, that really allows you to think about designing and delivering your services in a different way. So let's just get started. So we are viewed as a new provider to the sector. In reality, I've been with Hitachi now for about 10 months. I have 10 years operational delivery experience in housing prior to coming to Hitachi, working primarily around sort of business improvement and transformation. And my motivation in coming to Hitachi was largely driven, if I'm honest, I do apologise if there's anybody from other suppliers here, from a slight degree of frustration of trying to work with kind of traditional legacy systems and make them do things that I didn't really feel they were that fit to do, trying to make them shoehorn into a capability that I didn't really feel that the complexity of all the building blocks really were designed to support, particularly as the housing sector evolved, business models became more complex, and you actually want to work more dynamically and more flexibly in the way that you design and deliver your services. So when I had the opportunity to move to Hitachi, I saw it as a real opportunity for me to take all my frustration, all my experience of delivering IT and business transformation within the sector, and start to design a solution that I would have really liked to have taken to my boards and to my executive teams and have confidence that I felt they could do what it needed to do. So that's kind of where my team comes from. And I've started now building up a team of housing professionals, all of whom have considerable experience within the sector. And that is a layer of industry expertise, knowledge, passion that overlays the technical capabilities that Hitachi have had in place for many years. So we have, we're known as Microsoft Dynamics specialists. We have lots and lots of technical people who really know the products inside out and know how to make them work. And what we're adding to that is a real understanding of the industry, a real understanding of the challenges, a real understanding of the limitations of the legacy systems and what they've struggled to support. And we're using that to influence the design of our proposition, to bring something to you that we feel really passionate about, that we feel can really support your transformation and your digital journey going forwards. Like I say, I've kind of been incredibly lucky, if I'm honest, because I came into Hitachi at the point that, come in. So I came into Hitachi at the point that we've been working very quietly, really that's the royal we, I wasn't, other people were working incredibly hard in partnership with Clarion Housing Group for a period of time. And what that project was primarily focused on was a digital transformation that was end-to-end. But what a key delivery within that programme was the creation of a solid foundation sitting directly within the Dynamics Finance and Operations module that comprises all of the really complex processing engine functionality that is required to support the delivery of housing functions. So the types of services that legacy housing management systems have kind of struggled to provide effectively, things like asset management capabilities, that single view of the asset and that full integrated capability, things like service charges, rent setting, component accounting, securitization, all of that is built into our core product that sits directly within the finance and operations module within D365. And that's a real game changer, because what it allows is the design of a solution that genuinely enables the decommissioning of your legacy housing management systems and the movement to a single platform that's based on Microsoft. I am extremely pleased, extremely fortunate that all of that legwork and hard work was done before I got there, and I kind of said, thank thanks very much, that's great, we'll take that now. And that's a really important and significant part of our proposition, because it gives us a layer of complexity and a layer of capability that allows us to really look at how you design your services using that capability effectively. So we have the whole suite of Microsoft Dynamics capability at our disposal, and we look at how we use them. And there are two elements to that. We focus really on the creation of a very solid foundation. We think that having that solid foundation and all the really core capabilities actually allows you to then start to think much more imaginatively, much more creatively about what you want to do to redesign your services and take your association forward. But in order to do that with confidence, you need to be confident that your foundation is solid. So our first priority has been the creation of that very, very solid foundation based on the solid capabilities that Dynamics and its associated capabilities provide, coupled with the really detailed understanding of the business processes and the requirements that you have to support your services and deliver your functions. And then around that, there's a huge range of enabling capabilities that allow you to start to plug in the really innovative ways of designing services using things like IoT, machine learning, AI, but they're purely as a way of supporting and enhancing the way that you design and deliver your services. And we have a kind of simple process flow that kind of underpins it. It's very simple because this is my way of thinking and getting my head around what it was that I wanted to tell as a story. So it's not technical, and sometimes technical people look at me like, a bit simplistic. I'm like, yeah, but I understand it, so it's good. So basically, what we look to do is not really talk about coming and implementing CRM for you, or implementing mobile, or implementing a customer self-service portal. What we do is take the whole of the platform end to end and look at what does that business process journey look like across the platform. If you design that process to work as efficiently and effectively as it can for your customers, what does that look like? And how do you use all of those technical components to underpin it so that it's a really efficient and effective process? And there are a number of assumptions in the way that we design that. So the first assumption is that we assume that when the service request comes in, that model is changing. So where traditionally contacts would have come in via telephone, we now take for granted that those contacts are going to come in using lots of different channels. So we're going to have customer self-service. It's a real driver for that channel shift to enable customers to self-serve and reduce the volume of contacts to your contact centre. So that needs to be an integrated and core assumption within the way that we design our business processes. We also look at the multi-channel capability, so the contact centre integration, so that again your customers can start to interact with you in different ways, using web chat, using text, using email, and for that to be a natural and integrated part of the way that you communicate with them. And we also assume that you have mobile staff working out and about, and that those staff can have conversations with your customers and raise those requests on behalf of them so that they flow into the solution that you have. So we have a much more complex range of ways of triggering those service requests. The next assumption in our platform is the assumption that you have that single view. So the single view within Dynamics customer engagement comprises the tenancy, the tenant, and the property, so that there is full visibility of that capability and you can see it. And this is for contact centre staff, but also for mobile staff too. We'll come back to the other bit. The next assumption is that organisations no longer want to have their staff desk-based. They want them out and about, they want them being more efficient, they want them more productive. They don't want them having to come back to the office to collect documents, to update files, to come in and type up their notes after meetings with customers. So we need to have the capability to push those tasks out once they've been generated in CRM to enable it to be completed as part of a single efficient process. And in this repairs example, we make an assumption that there are two different types of mobile staff. You can have a mobile field worker going out doing a pre-inspection before the task actually gets raised, or you can have the repairs operative. And that's an assumed mobility that's built into our solution. And then you need the ability to manage the payments and the finance elements of that. Because we work on a single platform that's fully integrated, our asset management system is fully part of our core financials capability. So when the task is completed, it raises that invoice and manage payments directly within the single system. And then you update your asset. And this is the Hitachi property management module that I mentioned, which has been developed in partnership with Clarion. And what that means is that we can provide a single integrated update of the asset. We have one version of the asset system. We don't have a version of the asset sitting in a housing management system and replicating to an asset management system. It's one version of the truth that then integrates as soon as the task is completed to update the view within your CRM system. It's a single platform that works across the process in a very, very integrated and kind of intuitive way. The next assumption that we make is that in order for the processes to be completed effectively and efficiently, there are a range of enabling technologies that need to be integrated into that process. What you don't want is a customer to start the process and then have to exit it in order to, because they can't make a payment, they can't view a document, they can't make a signature, so they need to exit the process and do it in a different way. So what we do when we design our processes is we have a look and we go, at what point in this process would you need to be able to automatically link to a payment gateway? So in this reactive repairs process, if a customer went onto the portal and the job was flagged as a rechargeable repair, then you would want them to be able to make the payment there and then and continue to make the appointment for that job to be completed. Similarly, if they're on the phone to the contact centre, it's a rechargeable repair, they need to be able to make the payment there and then so that the process doesn't halt. And similarly, if you have a field worker goes out, does a pre-inspection, says unfortunately that's a rechargeable repair, they need to be able to take that payment on their mobile device and enable that appointment and that process to continue. So we look at all of these enabling technologies, document management, e-signature tools, and say, where does that sit logically across that process to enable it to work in the most effective and efficient way for you that it can? And that's the kind of very simple approach that we take to all of our business areas. And I think one of the key differentiators is, I'm not technical, I have managed IT teams, but always from a business perspective. So I don't talk about technology, and one of my messages to my IT team have always been, not really that interested in the technology. If it's working well, it almost becomes invisible. And I'm not really interested in technology unless it's aligned to deliver the services and functions that you're here to support. So within a housing association, as a kind of head of IT type person, it was always like, well, you know what, if the services aren't working effectively, if the business don't feel that that function works for them, it doesn't matter how good the technology is, it's not working. And that's the assumption that we take in the way that we work and integrate all of those technologies. So we have access to the amazingly brilliant technical capability that has always been the core of Hitachi, but we're supplementing that with a real business focus about how we design the solution and make it work for you. So we have a range of accelerator products, and we've looked at all of the core functions that a housing association typically provides, and we have core defined processes that say this is what we come to you with as a start of a 10 discussion. So our accelerator demo system is configured to level 4 across core business areas. And we spent a lot of time working out what's the right level of pre-configuration to bring to you. So we want it to be detailed enough that you look at it and go, I recognise that, it adds value, it's definitely going to help us implement it more quickly. But we didn't want it to be so detailed that you kind of go, where's the flexibility to reflect us? We still need to be able to make the changes that we need as an organisation. So we bring a lot of these artefacts to the conversation from the initial kick-off to say, right, how does this feel for you? Does this feel right? Where does your process vary? At what point does it kick off to a manager or a different team for approval? And what does that actually look like? So we're kind of exploring some of the challenges around, what does the data implication for this look like? What does the security access rules look like in terms of this process? And what does it really need to look like in order to work for you? So we bring all of this as an acceleration, which allows us to have a much more speedy implementation in the way that we engage with you. One of the things that I think, again, I cannot even begin to explain to you how grateful I am to Clarion for taking one for the team, the housing team that is. But I think we've done all of that incredibly hard work working with them, and we're now in a position where when we bring our proposition, we're implementing a core product for you. We're able to use it to reflect your nuances and your particular culture and your particular processes, but we actually have that capability there and are able to work with you to make rapid progress. And what that starts to look like then, if you translate this detailed kind of process here that looks at the way that the ASB process works in this instance, is we can start then to use the core dynamics capability to bring that to you. And we have a real strong emphasis on developing self-sufficiency in the way that we work to implement it with you. If you choose to work with us long term, we want it to be because that's a relationship that works for you and you feel it adds value. We don't want you to be with us for 10 years because you can't work out how to untie your dependency on us. So all of our code, even in the complex HPM functionality, is open. It's core finance and operations coding. So if, after the initial contract period you thought, we hate them, you can walk away, you have access to that system, you have full visibility and are able to take control. And it's core dynamics capability, so it's absolutely within your gift to do with it as you will. The other thing that's important about the Hitachi Property Management module is that it's built as a processing engine really sitting at the back office. So it does all the complex calculations which underpin service charging, rent setting, component accounting. Only very specialist teams, however, will actually use that as the access point. So it is the processing engine, it does all the calculations, but the processes are actually surfaced in CRM so that the user experience is driven through the CRM module. So in terms of that user interface, the user experience, there isn't multiple systems to train your users in, and most of them are actually accessing and driving their products from data that is generated by HPM and underpins the solution, but driven and presented to them flexibly using CRM. I must admit as well, coming from the sector and seeing the user interface, the look and feel, the user experience of the product that is being developed, I just thought it's so nice. It's so simple. The screens are much more flexible. The screen can be much less busy. It doesn't look kind of like it was built originally in 1973. And there's a ton of capability in there that has really, really impressed me. And so I'm very happy to be in the position of selling this product rather than other products. Another core capability that Hitachi have are specialist teams who focus around things like transformation and adoption, so we can work proactively to help make sure that when we work with organisations, we can support the business change and make sure that it actually embeds with new ways of working. But we also have a very good data science and analytics team. Again, coming from the sector, my immediate thing looking at reports coming out of Dynamics was, oh my gosh, how beautiful is that? And actually, I asked for a report and he gave me one. That's quite incredible, because that's not really been my experience typically. So I found the management information and the distinction between management information and business intelligence very, very significant as an advantage that it brings. And one of the things that we do when we look at that end-to-end process, using the full capability of the platform, is also look at which point in the process will you need access to management information, and what does that dashboard look like in order for you to make proactive and informed operational decisions, but also at what points in the process will you need business intelligence that allows you to make more informed strategic decisions. And we build that into our core process to ensure that you have access to that intuitively as part of the process design. And the Power BI and the capabilities that underpin it have been very, very powerful. So we're doing a lot of work at the minute to overlay different data sources, to access open source data and use that to look at much more personalised service design informed by a far richer understanding of your tenants, of the community in which they live, of the citizens rather than their concept as a tenant, and to really kind of use those open source data to overlay the management information that sits within your own systems. And like I said, this is a massively exciting area for me. So we have a number of different options. We want our solution to be scalable. We want it to be available to organisations of all sizes. So we have the core product that is that we bring to you as a standard offer to start with, but we don't really mind how you want to implement it. Our solution is modular, So although we look at the business process and we understand in discussing with you what that process and journey would look like if you took the whole platform, we're able to put it into sections and be able to implement certain elements of it. So if you need to do your implementation as a multi-year IT strategy, then we can support that. That may be because of budget restrictions, or it may be because of risk appetite. You know, you may feel, prove yourself first, let's build this relationship and then we'll build the other requirements on eventually. But we also are able to deliver the full transformation strategy that allows you to swap out the full platform and move that way. The other bit that I'm interested in that we're exploring, and there's a little bit more complexity around some of the Microsoft licensing models around this, but we started discussions to understand what is the potential to look at the capabilities of the cloud for shared environments, which then starts to open up this capability to organisations who traditionally wouldn't necessarily have been able to consider such a kind of model. And I think you know, looking at it from the public sector and motivation, and looking at it from the public good and the benefit that that sort of model can bring, is something that we're really keen to explore, and we're in active discussions with Microsoft about how we can enable that for more kind of consortium and shared environment working. And Hitachi is a big name, it's a big global company, you know, it's a massive organisation that spreads the world, and that brings with it tons of opportunity that we can use to benefit our offer for you. So we can benefit from all of the work that is happening across Hitachi Global. We work proactively to understand what's happening in other sectors, and particularly as the business model in housing diversifies, and there's far more areas of income generation around private rented sector, around private sales, commercial arms, much more kind of care and support models. We can actually use experience and IP that has been built by Hitachi in other sectors and look at how we can translate that and bring it to your sector. And one of my responsibilities as head of industry for housing with Hitachi is to do two things. Is A, to look at what capability we can get from other parts of the Hitachi group and how that translates into a capability that works for this sector, but also how we can understand the capabilities that are coming from the Microsoft platform itself, and what does that actually mean, both in terms of functionality that might be deprecated, but also functionality that's being released. So how does that actually translate into a capability that works for this sector? So we have internal Hitachi opportunities. And we also, because of our size, are able to really look at more innovative ways of service design and service modelling. And some of the work that we're doing just now is massively innovative and really, really exciting. And to be honest, when I joined Hitachi and started looking at the proposition for housing, this wasn't really on my radar. But we found that the platform that we've created is completely transferable and works across local government, works across housing, and it's also applicable in the social care environment. And what that means is when you start to look at a single cloud-hosted platform that sits across the citizen-facing public sector, you actually have the opportunity to look at service delivery and design in a completely remodelled and a different way of commissioning those services. So if you look at care and support and extra care, which is obviously a key delivery within housing, but it's been delivered and designed and created in a silo within housing systems. But you look at the contribution that local government makes in that sector too, and you look at the contribution that health makes in that sector. If you're able to conceive of a single platform that integrates all of that care, packaging and modelling service, and actually makes that available to the right partners at the right parts in the process, you can actually start to really look at disruptive commissioning and modelling services that really start to look at, really shape the way that services are designed and delivered. And we have 2 active projects in place just now that are completely testing that model. They are covered under NDA. I get so excited, I'd just love to tell you about it. But they are covered under NDA right now. But I think what it proves is that we are very, very interested in and committed to providing a platform that supports housing delivery in its current shape and format. But what we're not doing is saying, this is the format that you're going to need next year. or in 3 years, or in 5 years. We're really looking at all of the capabilities of the platform, all of the data sharing capabilities, all of the reporting and design capabilities, and what does that actually look like if you start to look at the need for efficiencies across the public sector. So you look at income streams potentially shifting between different parts of the public sector, because that's the most efficient part of that service to provide that. So if you look at one of the examples that we're talking about is a local authority taking on a role for health, where the health service currently manually goes through individual files to identify people approaching their 50th birthday and sends out a letter going, you better come and see us because you might be starting to get poorly. And what they're doing is a manual, expensive process that is triggered directly within the health service. And the model that the local authority are looking at is, if we're creating a citizen CRM that is holding this data and is populated with all of these other open source data, how can we automate that? How can we deliver that service more effectively on behalf of the health service, do it as an income stream for us that helps our bottom line, but actually in terms of the public sector budget delivers a far more effective and efficient service. And what we're starting to look at is the modelling of services, the modelling of income streams, the modelling of service provision that looks across the public sector and not necessarily in the traditional silos that have been created, historically. So we've got a load of capabilities, we've got a load of ideas, we're kind of balancing that. How do we create the foundation? How do we get the traction so that people think of Hitachi when they're looking for a solution in housing? But also, how do we take this forward so that what we're not doing is delivering mediocrity? What we don't want is to kind of just replicate functionality that you've kind of had, but improve it with a nicer user look and feel. We want to be really kind of looking at the way the sector is evolving, understanding the drivers, understanding the things that matter to you and the things that you need, the challenges that mergers and acquisitions are bringing, and be really, really on the front foot to respond to that. And it's those kind of service modelling and delivery arrangements that are really driving the way that we're taking our product and our proposition forward. So I'd love to have a chat, answer any questions, things like that. I've got a couple of little things going on in the background that just kind of show a couple of processes working within our CRM system, bits and pieces, but please ask anything you would like. And don't nod, because I'll feel really awkward for a minute.
So, Chair, sorry, the property management system, is that in Dynamics or is it developed in something else?
It's developed in the finance and operations module of D365.
Right. Okay.
So it's part of that.
Okay.
We have very consciously chosen to keep that open. So it is Hitachi IP, but we want our customers to have the flexibility to choose not to stay with us if that's what they want. So we don't want to tie anybody in. So the capability is there. We have had the coding reviewed by Microsoft at our expense, so that we have confirmation that in terms of the coding standards that Microsoft review, it has the highest ratings in terms of the least likelihood of breaking or not upgrade. Do you know, does that make sense? That sentence work?
Yeah, they like it.
Yeah. They like it.
So what? And does the finance and operations module of 365 does that actually run ledgers, or is it?
Yeah, it's full finance system capability.
Okay.
Yeah. Hi.
Yeah. Hi. Does it have an offline capability?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So
is that native inside it, or do you add it another package to get it?
So there's mobile dynamics CRM, but so we start off with an assumption when we look at mobility of teams that mobile dynamics CRM will support traditional mobile front office routines. So if you had a housing officer who went out and you want them to be able to view the rent account, view repairs history, things like that, they would be able to do that on their Dynamics, just mobile dynamics CRM on their device. Is that the modelling of scheduling of these front office teams is becoming more complex. And people are looking at smarter ways of using these teams so that they're not desk-based. So that can trigger a shift into a product called Resco, and that just has slightly more enhanced and offline capabilities. Anything else?
terms of field service, does the scheduling optimise the operatives' routes and work accordingly to minimise travel time, maximise productive time?
Yeah, there's a range of different products around the scheduling capability, and you can do manual, you can do semi-automated, and you can do automated. So some of the fully automated capability is kind of a developing product. So we work proactively to do that. Some of the things that we found, so we're doing a project at the moment with Rolls-Royce, and this is one of the examples of transferable capability that I was quite excited about, sadly, was one of the pieces of functionality that they developed with field service was the sequential scheduling of trades, so that if you have multiple jobs sequentially required to complete in a property, that you can set that up as a single task, because I think that's typically been quite hard to achieve. So yeah, I got a little bit too excited about that when I found out we'd done that.
Cher, on the Clarion project, how are they sourcing their EDM? Is it through this, or is it through a supplier?
So we built their document management capability as part of our delivery, and it was built originally in a previous version of Dynamics, so we needed a slightly more enhanced capability. But what the design of the solution enabled, so SharePoint out of the box doesn't really provide proper document management capability. Doesn't really allow proper searchability or viewing of those documents, intuitively. So the product that we built with Clarion basically allows the searching of documents wherever you happen to be across the platform. So whether that document is stored in the back office in finance and operations, or whether it's stored in CRM, you can search it and find it with tagging and data. So that's actually, again, Hitachi IP, and one of our most significant investments in terms of the capability that we've created. It's one of those things that you think it shouldn't be that difficult, but it really was. Anything else?
Sorry I came a little bit late,
Sorry,
so
don't
I
worry.
covered this right at the beginning. I'm just interested in how it kind of stacks up on a business case. Have you got case studies on kind of return on investment timeline compared to the sort of existing models of delivery?
Well, to be honest, we're actually finding that our discussions with different clients are quite different. Do you know? So different people are motivated by different things. Oh, sorry. I was wondering where that voice was coming from. There we go. I'll tell Addie she made an appearance. There we are. So sorry. So the different motivations coming from different companies. So absolutely, part of what we do when we work with a customer is really, because we're so business focused, we start right at the start to go, what are the outcomes you're looking for, and put in place a benefits realisation model that we can track through the delivery. So we will we work proactively to make sure that underpins the conversations right from the start. There are some high level things that we can state, but there's a kind of simple figure that I quote. Actually, it's not a Hitachi quote, it's from a previous project that I delivered, where when I made Teams mobile, basically we looked at, conservatively I would say, about 30% efficiencies, purely by meaning that the people didn't need to go back to the office and type up their resources, didn't need to go back and collect files, they weren't travelling back and forth between the office. So conservatively we were looking at 30% efficiencies just through the implementation of effective mobility. I try to avoid making sweeping statements, and I am being encouraged to actually, what are the highlight grabbing figures. I kind of feel the sector's so varied, with different sizes and drivers, that I would rather have a bit of an intelligent conversation with individuals rather than make too many sweeping statements.
I guess it's more if there are just some case studies of people who've done some of this stuff where they've started to see the benefits coming through.
Yeah,
it makes it more of a story to tell back at your place of work when you can make it real rather than something that's too ethereal. Yeah,
we can absolutely. We have a couple. I can send you a few bits and pieces. Okay. Anything else? We do have loads more, and these are just sort of examples to give you a feel for the look and feel, bits and pieces of different things. But Adi and Hassan, who are at our stand, they know the system technically far better than I do. You know, I talk bouncy bubbles and things, so they can talk with you far more about that if you like.